Great to have you here on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth. Joining us now is Chris Garcia. Chris served in the Trump administration before deciding to go in, by the private sector again. Chris, great to have you with us.
Hey, John, good morning. How are you?
Good. Tell us a little bit about what you did with the Trump administration early on.
Sure, yes. I was a deputy director in the U.S. Department of Commerce and ran an agency called the Minority Business Development Agency. And it's essentially not a hand-out agency, but it's not even really a hand-up agency. You simply are there to promote the interests of minority-owned businesses to make sure that America stays competitive, and we did a great job there with Secretary Ross.
Well, I think the Commerce Department very underrated. I know the president has a great relationship with Secretary Ross. He's put a good team together. I remember you there and some of the things that you did with minority-owned businesses. What prompted your exit?
Sure, yeah, no. So the swamp is real. Swamp is alive and real. I'll just say that. And after taking a look at all of the obstacles that I'd had to overcome, went in, served about a year. I moved from Los Angeles, California, to take this position. When the president calls, you take the call and you answer and you serve. So. I thought that this was the right time for me to make the move to Washington, to serve, to try to clean things up in the swamp. And sometimes the bureaucracy can become just too much to handle, as you saw from several of the other high-level exits. But I'll say we had a very successful time while we were in office. Secretary Ross, as you can tell, his number one issue is trade. President Trump has done a phenomenal job with trade. Secretary Ross, along with, of course, Peter Navarro, Robert Lighthizer, they're taking a very fresh, new approach. And I don't think, your listeners probably agree. What else do you expect from the businessman-in-chief? What else do you expect from the negotiator-in-chief? And this is something that he did for a living. And it's time to have somebody like that in office. And it's good to have folks like us pushing back on the false and the hysterical claims that are being pushed by some of those on the left in the media that the president is going to tank this country. I think it's the exact opposite.
Remember when so many people were saying that if he gets in, what was it, Schumer, somebody saying that, or Pelosi, the stock market would crash or 401 would go down, the economy would go into recession. We've got one of the most robust growth economies ever. And here's the thing, Chris Garcia, the tax cut hasn't even hit. Right? I mean, the tax cut, the benefit of the tax cut right now, right, that we're getting the impact of, is people getting a little more money in their paycheck from reduced withholding. So it could be anywhere from $80 a month to a couple hundred, depending on what your situation is and how many dependents you have and all that. So, it's a couple hundred, 200, 300, 400, big dollars, even if it's, 80 to some people like me. That's a big deal if you're in media. By the way, if you want to make money in the private sector, do not get in media. That would be my advice. Come on my radio show, though. Do that. But look, and the benefit is, you're getting bonuses from companies who are going to accrue the savings in 2018, not 2017. But the tax cut really hits in the spring of 2019. Because that's when people are going to find out, oh, my God, instead of paying $5,000, I'm going to pay $1,000. Or instead of paying $3,000, I'm not paying anything. Or instead of getting a rebate for $1,000, I'm going to get $3,500 back. That's when the real impact starts to happen.
Oh, you bet. Those are not just crumbs. Those are not just crumbs.
That's big.
And the president's killing it on every single line. I mean, you talk about trade, you talk about the economy, you talk about national security. When's the last time you heard about ISIS? I mean, the president is delivering.
Yeah, no question. Now, I want to get, if I can, Chris, to the Helsinki summit. The president walking back one of his big statement there at the press conference. He changed would to wouldn't. He added 3 words. He said, I really meant to say wouldn't, didn't see the transcript. And, of course, the Democrats are jumping on that, saying it's insufficient, it's a day late, it's $1 short. He had 2 days. He had to figure it out. This is all because he's under pressure. But now we find out in the and I want to get your comments on these 2 things, Chris Garcia. The piece that came out in Bloomberg last night, very revealing, says basically that Rod Rothenstein, deputy DOJ, deputy attorney general in the DOJ, goes to the president a week ago, says, I've got these 10 people that I'm going to hand indictments down. Here they are. Look at them, vet them, tell me what you want to do. You want to do this now, before Helsinki, after Helsinki, get this off the table. You tell me what you want me to do. President looked at the names, got the background, had the meeting, and said, let's put it out before we go so I can take it to Putin directly and challenge him on it. His decision. So he gets it out there. But that's not covered anywhere. And all the Democrats want to do is get back to is would or wouldn't. I mean, at the end of the day, who cares?
Well, I mean, are we surprised? The Democrats have tried to throw everything that they can at President Trump to see what sticks, and nothing sticks. He's a Teflon president. They tried to throw the immigration deal at him. Now they're trying to abolish ICE. They're trying to say that he's going to start a nuclear war by saber-rattling with North Korea and the meeting with Kim. But then he actually tries to sit down with Kim, and then they want to run their mouth about that. Now it's under President Obama, it was that this was 1980s foreign policy when he was debating Mitt Romney, and that Russia is not our foe. But then President Trump gets into office, and now Russia is our foe, and they don't want him to sit down. So it seems that no matter what the president does, he can't win. I think this is not any new news. The Democrats are going to try to find anything they can to have stick. But I think what's being underreported and underemphasized in the media is that the president is doing exactly what you said earlier. The party has changed, and the president has changed the party for the better. The president is taking a different approach, certainly on foreign policy. He certainly does have a peace through strength approach, but I think his overall goal is really to make sure that we have amicable solutions with some of our previous adversaries. He's really the president that's pushing for world peace, and I don't think anybody's reporting that.
Look, Chris, let's be candid, okay? So if the president wanted to skirt this, why would he have had Rod Rosenstein, who he doesn't have a good relationship with anyway, why would he have had Rosenstein release the names of these 10 Russian military GRU people and release the names that they've been indicted? Why wouldn't he have said, if really his objective was to just skate over this, he would have said, let's not deal with that until after I get back because it's going to really muddy the waters on what I'm trying to do. But Chris Garcia, he said the exact opposite. He said, release them now so that when I confront Putin privately, I can directly address this with him in a stern manner. Now, if he wasn't going to do that, why would he have the names released?
Right. No, and it's probably exactly what happened. None of us will, none of us will really know what happened behind closed doors. Democrats will try to say that the president was trying to cozy up to Vladimir Putin because, who knows what kind of crazy conspiracy theory they come up with. He wants to put a hotel in Russia, or he wants to put a hotel in Moscow, and he's trying to cozy up to him. They'll come up with anything. But the facts, I would say that, and I could speculate pretty clearly that the president had him release it because he wanted to bring it up privately. The president is still a fierce negotiator. It doesn't matter who he's meeting with. This is why he gets chips on the table like this. If he's got chips on the table like these indictments, that's more ammunition for him to bring to the table and to get Vladimir Putin to make concessions. That's really the only explanation. But I think again, it's the media underestimating and really outright just doubting and casting doubt on the president's intentions, what he's done, how effective he's been. This is the first time that I have ever seen a media truly root against a president's success to the detriment of the country.
Coming to you live from your nation's capital in Washington, D.C. at our luxurious studios here in the Corey Lewandowski Embassy right by the Capitol. As always, that's where we always are, right here, right in the middle of everything with Chris Garcia. Chris, a former senior official at Wilbur Ross's Department of Commerce. He was also an early supporter of President Trump and was in charge of his minority outreach and diversity program during the campaign. He's now back in private business, but commenting to us, so we appreciate him getting up early, being he's from L.A. So let me just ask you this. the president's clarification of his statement, it took him 2 days, right? Because this is Wednesday. Well, it took him a day and a half. And he says, hey, I just saw the transcript. I meant to say wouldn't. I said would. Not his best performance, I thought. I mean, maybe that was true, but it seemed like to me that he would have done that immediately. What say you?
I think the president has been very strong and powerful with his words. Certainly with the performance that he had in Helsinki, I think there's nothing to doubt about that. With regard to the would or the wouldn't comment, I think that this is what happens when the president relies on some of his staff. I think that he had some reluctance in going forward with that clarification, but I think it's important that he knows that he's got to stick with his gut. If I were there to advise the president, I would say continue to stick with your gut. It hasn't failed you since, and in order to keep leading this country, because he really is changing the party. He's really changing the way this nation is being governed. He's got to keep sticking with his gut. I mean, think about it. On national stage, with 16 of the most powerful Republicans, he beat 16 of the most powerful Republicans in the primary. And what was one of the chief things that he said? He said that the war in Iraq was a mistake. I mean, that was sacrilege. But you know what? He went with his gut. He spoke truth. And I think that that's the same case here, where he just has to stick to his guns, keep pushing on the offensive, keep pushing forward, keep the pedal to the metal, keep the throttle up, and just keep doing what Trump does. You got to let Trump be Trump, as Corey says, right?
That's right. Great analogy about Iraq, because I thought one of the most riveting statements in the entire campaign, and I followed it, as you know, very closely. I probably broadcast 20 rallies. I was at every single debate except the one I believe in Dallas, but I was at every Republican debate, covered them all. But I thought one of the most defining things, two of the most defining things he said, but one ties into what you said, is he went to South Carolina for the South Carolina primary, and he challenged the Iraq War, George Bush's record, Jeb Bush's record, the whole war record, why we got involved, the false intel, Colin Powell, the whole thing. I mean, and he was the first Republican to just tear open the onion and say, look, inside there's nothing in here but a rotten core. Right? And remember the outrage that the Republicans were outraged over this? Well, they told the truth. The war was a mistake. Their intel was false. They lied. There were no WMDs. And all this time later, we're mired in this thing. It was a complete disaster. That's why I think George W. Bush is going to go down in history as the worst president ever, including Hoover and the Teapot Dome scandal, Harding, and everything else, and Carter. Worst ever. And he exposed that. And remember how shocked the Republican establishment was? The guy was right.
He was right. And John, and bring it back to today, where just the last couple of days, which Republican senator has come out and defended President Trump? Senator Rand Paul,
right,
who has been long against the war in Iraq, who's been long against this mass surveillance that's going on in our country. Right. And why is he? Why is he defending the president? Because the president is truly, look at the big picture here. If we talk to our adversaries, there's less of a chance. There's a lesser chance of conflict. If you don't talk to your adversaries, you've got more probability for conflict. Well, I don't have to connect the dots for everybody there, but think about which Republican establishment members who are deep in the pockets of the military-industrial complex have come out and blasted the president for trying to create peace.
Boy, we are so much on the same page. And if you follow the money, Chris Garcia, and you follow the donations, you're exactly right. They're in the pocket of the neocon military-industrial complex that wants to send our young men and women all over the world to police everything, because every time they send them, somebody has to supply it, and they make a lot of money off bombs, missiles, planes, gas, water, food, cigarettes, booze. It doesn't matter. Right, the military industrial, when somebody is deployed, it's cha-ching. And so that's really what we're faced with here. The president's called them out. Rand Paul certainly has also, but you absolutely nailed it. And people are probably wondering, what was the second biggest thing the president ever said, in my judgment? Has nothing to do with Chris Garcia is saying, but in my judgment, it's when he said, Caitlyn Jenner can use whatever bathroom at Trump Tower she wants. I thought that more than anything on the social end of it, like define the guys. Like, you know what? I want to get you a job. I don't care what bathroom Caitlyn Jenner goes in. Chris,
I got to share a quick story with you about Caitlyn Jenner. When I was in LA, so back when Caitlyn was Bruce, I had the same doctor in the same complex as Bruce Jenner. And I was going in one time. I actually met Bruce Jenner and Kris Jenner at a fundraiser for Meg Whitman, who was running for governor at the time in California. And so we got to know each other. Shook hands. Spoke for a while. A year later, see him at the doctor's office. He's coming out visibly frustrated. I say, "Hey, great to see you." "Oh, hey, good to see you, Chris. How you been?" Talk a little bit about the election with President Romney or President nominee Romney. 2 years later, I see him walking out of the same doctor's office, visibly distressed. Looks a little more feminine, not too sure. The next time I see Bruce Jenner, it's no longer Bruce Jenner, it's Caitlyn Jenner on that big national TV station. I said, wow. But, it's funny to see how even when Caitlyn Jenner came out, Caitlyn said it was more difficult to come out as a Republican than to come out as transgender. How about that?
Another classic statement, right? It's tougher to be a transgender than be a Republican in Los Angeles. So at least there's two Republicans there. Chris Garcia, who's from L.A. now in D.C.
From L.A. now in D.C., yep.
And Caitlyn Jenner. Hey, great to have you, man. We'll have to get you on as a regular. I think you're right on target. Appreciate your unique perspective. Chris Garcia, what's your website?
Yeah, you can actually find me at chrisgarcia.us, or you can follow me at Chris Garcia USA on Twitter. And John, I love your show.
All right, Chris Garcia USA on Twitter. Follow him. He's a great guy.